Is this the move that transforms the Miami Dolphins from pretenders to legitimate playoff contenders? Or did they just make the most overlooked signing of the entire offseason? While the NFL world was still buzzing about surprise roster cuts and blockbuster trades, Miami quietly made official what could be their most impactful defensive addition in years. The Miami Dolphins have officially signed cornerback Rasul Douglas to their active roster, and the corresponding move tells us everything we need to know about how serious this organization is about competing right now. They released safety Jordan Colbert to make room, though the former undrafted free agent is expected to land on the practice squad, showing Miami's commitment to keeping developing talent in their system while prioritizing immediate impact at the cornerback position. Let's talk about what Douglas brings to this Dolphins secondary, because his resume reads like exactly what championship teams are built on. This isn't some aging veteran looking for one last paycheck or a developmental project hoping to reach his potential. This is a proven NFL cornerback who has consistently performed at a high level despite bouncing around the league more than a pinball. Douglas's journey through the NFL tells a fascinating story of perseverance and adaptability that every football fan should appreciate. Originally a third-round pick by Philadelphia back in 2017, he's since played for 7 different organizations, including stops with the Panthers, Raiders, Texans, Cardinals, Packers, and most recently the Buffalo Bills. That kind of experience across multiple systems and coaching philosophies creates the type of football intelligence that can't be taught in any classroom. The numbers from his 2024 season with Buffalo speak volumes about his current ability level. Douglas appeared in 15 games for a Bills team that made it to the AFC Championship game, recording 58 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, and 5 passes defended. Those aren't just solid statistics, they represent consistent, reliable production from a player who was trusted with significant responsibilities in one of the league's most competitive divisions. What makes Douglas's signing even more impressive is understanding the journey he took to get here. After being released by the Eagles in September 2020, he signed with Carolina but was released during training camp by Las Vegas the following year. Most players would have gotten discouraged by that kind of rejection, but Douglas kept grinding. He caught on with Houston's practice squad, got picked up by Arizona, claimed by Green Bay, and eventually traded to Buffalo where he found his groove. That trade to the Bills in October 2023 might have been the most important moment in Douglas's career. Green Bay sent him to Buffalo along with draft compensation in exchange for 3rd and 5th round picks, showing that teams valued his potential enough to give up significant draft capital to acquire him. Buffalo clearly saw something special, and Douglas rewarded their faith with consistent production over parts of 2 seasons. The timing of this signing couldn't be better for Miami's championship aspirations. Adding a proven veteran cornerback who has playoff experience and understands what it takes to compete at the highest level gives this defense a completely different dimension. Douglas has faced the best receivers in the AFC East twice a year, including elite talents like Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, and Devontae Parker. That experience against top-tier competition is invaluable. When you're trying to make a playoff push, from a scheme perspective, Douglas's versatility should fit perfectly with what defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver wants to accomplish. Played in multiple systems throughout his career, Douglas has the football IQ to adapt quickly to Miami's defensive concepts while bringing fresh perspectives from his experiences with other successful organizations. His ability to play both outside cornerback and slot coverage gives Weaver the flexibility to deploy different defensive looks depending on the matchup. The financial aspect of this deal also demonstrates Miami's smart approach to roster construction. Rather than overpaying for big-name free agents or trading away precious draft capital, he identified a quality veteran who was available and secured his services at a reasonable price. This type of savvy roster management is exactly what successful organizations do, finding value where others see risk. Douglas's impact should extend beyond just his individual performance on the field. Having a veteran presence in the cornerback room provides invaluable mentorship for Miami's younger defensive backs. Players like Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard can benefit from Douglas's experience and perspective, while younger corners can learn what it takes to succeed at the NFL level from someone who's been through every possible situation. The corresponding move to release Jordan Colbert also shows Miami's commitment to keeping their pipeline of talent flowing. Rather than simply cutting Colbert loose, the organization plans to bring him back on the practice squad, maintaining his development while making room for immediate impact. This approach demonstrates the kind of organizational depth and planning that championship teams require, looking at the broader context of Miami's roster moves.
Douglas's signing represents more than just adding depth at cornerback.
It signals that this organization believes they have a legitimate chance to compete for a playoff spot, wants to surround their core players with the kind of veteran experience that can make the difference in close games. The AFC East continues to be one of the most competitive divisions in football, with teams like Buffalo and New York making their own moves to stay competitive. Miami's response has been to focus on adding proven veterans who understand what it takes to succeed in this environment. Douglas fits that profile perfectly, bringing both the talent and experience necessary to compete with the best offenses in the conference. As we look ahead to the regular season, Douglas's presence in Miami's secondary should provide the kind of stability and reliability that defensive coordinators dream about. Having a cornerback who you can trust in any situation, against any receiver, in any game situation, is exactly what separates good defenses from great ones. The beauty of this signing lies in its combination of immediate impact and long-term upside. Douglas can contribute right away while also providing insurance against injuries and serving as a mentor for younger players. It's the kind of move that successful organizations make, low risk, high reward, with multiple ways to benefit the team. What do you think about Miami's approach to building their secondary through veteran additions like Douglas? Do you believe this type of experience depth is what the Dolphins need to make a playoff push, or should they be focusing on developing younger talent? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and smash that like button if you want to see more analysis of all the moves shaping our Dolphins championship pursuit this season. What happens when one of the NFL's most explosive offensive weapons becomes a complete mystery just days before the season opener? The Miami Dolphins are facing exactly that scenario with Darren Waller, and the silence surrounding his situation is becoming more deafening with each passing day. Less than 2 weeks separate us from meaningful football returning to Miami, yet their star tight end remains shrouded in uncertainty that has fans, analysts, and even beat reporters scratching their heads. Darren Waller hasn't taken a single snap in practice, hasn't appeared in any preseason games, and most concerning of all, hasn't shown any signs of progressing toward actually playing football anytime soon. Let's rewind to understand just how bizarre this entire situation has become. Waller spent the entire 2024 season on the reserve retired list, effectively taking a year off from professional football. When Miami traded for him from the Giants, they knew they were getting a player who needed time to get back into football, shaped both physically and mentally. Head coach Mike McDaniel approached the situation with what seemed like appropriate caution, keeping Waller out of training camp to avoid rushing him back too quickly. That conservative approach made perfect sense initially. After all, rushing a player back from retirement too quickly could lead to injury, poor performance, or even another retirement decision.
Daniel's careful handling
Seemed like smart long-term thinking designed to preserve Waller's health and maximize his impact once he was ready to contribute. But here's where the situation takes a concerning turn. Waller was activated from the retired list just before Miami's final preseason game, which should have signaled that he was ready to begin his transition back to active football. Instead, he didn't play in that game, and more troubling, he still hasn't appeared at practice even as the regular season approaches rapidly. The mystery deepens when you consider that Miami included Waller on their final 53-man roster, indicating they still believe he'll contribute this season. Teams don't waste roster spots on players they don't expect to use, especially at a position like tight end where depth is crucial for both offensive schemes and special teams contributions. Yet here they are, carrying a player who hasn't demonstrated he can actually play football at this point. Miami Herald reporter Omar Kelly has suggested that Waller might be dealing with an undisclosed injury, which would at least provide some logical explanation for his continued absence. However, the team hasn't placed him on any injury list or provided any official update on his status, leaving everyone to speculate about what's really happening behind closed doors. The silence from the organization is perhaps the most concerning aspect of this entire saga. McDaniel was asked directly about Waller's situation and his plan for ramping up the tight ends training, but his response was described as superficial and unconvincing. When coaches start giving non-answers about important players, it usually means there's more to the story than they're willing to share publicly. From a football perspective, Waller's absence creates significant challenges for Miami's offensive planning. They're essentially preparing for the season with just Julian Hill and Tanner Conner as their active tight ends, a group that lacks both the experience and proven production that championship contenders typically rely on at the position. The timing couldn't be worse for an offense that's trying to establish its identity under McDaniel's system. Tight ends play crucial roles in modern NFL offenses, serving as safety valves for quarterbacks, red zone threats, and key components in both running and passing schemes. Having uncertainty at the position just days before the season opener forces coordinators to limit their playbook and adjust their game planning. What makes this situation even more puzzling is understanding what Waller brings to the table when healthy and motivated. This is a player who has caught over 90 passes in multiple seasons and has been one of the most productive tight ends in the league when at his peak. His combination of size, speed, and route running ability makes him a matchup nightmare for opposing defenses and exactly the type of weapon that can elevate an entire offense. The psychological aspects of Waller's situation also deserve consideration. Coming back from retirement isn't just about getting physically ready to play football again, it's about rediscovering the mental and emotional commitment required to compete at the NFL level. Perhaps Waller is still working through that process, trying to determine if he truly wants to put his body and mind through another grueling NFL season. Miami's investment in Waller represents more than just adding talent to their roster. They traded for a player they believed could be a difference maker in their pursuit of playoff success. But that investment only pays off if he's actually available and productive. Every day he remains away from practice is another day of misdevelopment and chemistry building with quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. The upcoming injury report will provide the first official glimpse into what's really happening with Waller. If he appears on the report with a specific injury designation, it would at least explain his absence and provide a timeline for his potential return. If he doesn't appear on the injury report at all, it raises even more questions about why a healthy player isn't participating in practice. For fans, who were excited about the potential of adding a proven playmaker like Waller to their offensive arsenal, this uncertainty has to be incredibly frustrating. They've watched other teams add impact players who are already contributing in practice and preseason games, while their big acquisition remains a complete unknown. Just days before meaningful games begin, the broader implications of Waller's situation extend beyond just one player's availability. It speaks to Miami's ability to evaluate and manage veteran acquisitions, their medical staff's assessment processes, and their communication strategies with both media and fans. How they handle this situation could influence future decisions about trading for players with similar circumstances. Looking ahead to the season opener against Indianapolis, Miami might have to game plan as if Waller won't be available, which significantly limits their offensive flexibility and forces them to rely more heavily on other skill position players. That's not necessarily a disaster, but it's certainly not the scenario they envisioned when they made the trade. The clock is ticking toward kickoff, and every day that passes without clarity on Waller's situation makes it more likely that Miami will start the season without one of their most talented offensive weapons. Whether this turns into a short-term inconvenience or a season-long problem remains. The biggest mystery surrounding the Dolphins is they prepare for what they hope will be a playoff contending campaign. What are your thoughts on how Miami is handling the Waller situation? Do you think they should be more transparent about what's keeping him off the field? Or is this the right approach for managing a delicate comeback from retirement? Share your opinions in the comments and hit that like button. If you want more updates on this developing story and all the latest Dolphins news,